Hello and welcome back to OT, the podcast. We're here to talk about watches, time and how to spend it. I'm Andy Green.
I'm Felix Schultz. Happy Pride, Andy. How are you?
Fantastic, Felix. Forgot your name there for a second.
Sure. Yeah, that's a pretty daily occurrence for me these days.
Tough one.
Getting on in years.
You still go by days?
I don't know. What else am I going to go by? We're in the time business. Hours, minutes, seconds. I don't know. I got others. What's going on today, Andy? Save me from myself?
Some embarrassment. This week we have a pretty big guest joining us shortly after we get through a little waffle. Matt Ebden, Australian tennis player, Felix. Just played in the Australian Open. He's a Grand Slam champ. He just had a career record ranking, I think, of 24 in doubles in the Aus Open. So he faced off against Kyrgios. So, yeah, he's received quite a bit of attention lately. But he's been on our radar for a while, Felix. He's been a guy who we've known is into watches because, you see it, right? Those people on social media with the blue tick that are sort of commenting on certain pages and, liking things. And you go, oh, maybe they're into watches.
There's
and
a bit of genuine engagement there that goes beyond the brand deal.
Yeah, it's been a long time, and he has scored a brand deal, which we will get into as well, Felix. But before we get Matt on, like I said, we've been up to a fair bit. This last week in the watch world has been pretty crazy. I think it's because Watches and Wonders is coming up, but everyone is alive.
Yeah, we're busy. We're busy looking at schedules and sending emails and all that. I'm even making the odd phone call, Andy. That's
yes. You've been on the phone every other day.
Yeah, just
Using
hustling.
your minutes.
But I got an email the other day that I quite liked, and it reminded me why I have so much love for this particular brand, and that brand is Nomos. Our good friends Nomos, who sent a PR email. And it wasn't about a new product release, and it wasn't about a manufacturer opening or a ambassador situation. But they sent it out on I'm guessing the German day for equal pay as well as International Women's Day. So it was a little bit of a different focus, but they sort of went into some detail about the gender diversity in their departments, like in the the sales or all the different, departments of their job. It turns out that manufacturing is their only sort of part of the workplace that doesn't come close to gender balance, which is, I think, a fairly respectable, achievement. And they also talk about equal pay, which in Europe is 18% less for women, and in, say, the US, it's 20% less. So
Much worse.
I think that's cool for me, for like watch brands to sort of do a little bit in this area. Like, it doesn't all just have to be about
Consumerism.
Yeah, and it's nice knowing that there's some sort of care and thought behind, the brand name that you like on the dial.
Yeah, well, we love Nomos, and yeah, they're very genuine with what they do, which is probably one of my favorite things about them as well.
Yeah, 100%. But there's other brand name on the dial related news that has just come to light, Andy, and this is it's sort of like everyone's been expecting it for a long time, but it's kind of cool to see it finally being registered. None other than Mr. Jean-Claude Biver is starting a watch brand under his own name.
Holy smokes. Did you read about how this came out?
I saw the Hodinkee did a recommended reading, but I didn't follow up.
So there was he did like an interview.
Yes.
Non-English interview. So someone's listening along and picked up on it, and then within minutes it's all over the internet. But he's basically saying, he's like, I've run some of the biggest brands in the world. Got all the experience. My brand name is great. I'm well known, so I think I'm going to do it.
So he's filed the registration and has sort of a non-specific logo sort of in the paperwork is in the work. So I can't see that he'd have any issues putting it together pretty quickly. But two questions for you. One, is it like just pure ego, or is it something else, the reason to do it? And what sort of watches do you think Jean-Claude Biver is going to put his name on?
Is it ego? I think it's there's got to be an element of that, right? Because he's 70s?
Yeah, he's not young.
He's not young. He's not a young fella. He's done the cheese. He's done the watch brand stuff. He's had endless wins in the watch industry. He's basically done it, and he's not ready to retire. And I think it's like a legacy thing, right? Like he's probably at the point where he's thinking, I want to leave something behind. I want to create immortality through my name.
I understand that. Like he's put in a lot of work for other people's names or companies. You know, I mean, sure, he's done
very well,
superbly well out of it. Yeah. But I mean, it's he's not Hublot and he's not Blancpain and he's not Omega.
So he's got the friends, he's got the resources, he's got the know-how, and I guess, Felix, the question is, as you said, what is it going to look like?
Now, I've seen some chatter saying that it's going to be like Hublot, Richard Mille, that sort of thing. I don't think it's that. I don't think he's going to go there.
Think something more classical?
Yeah. Like you look back, like he did a video years ago with Ben Clymer, and he's auctioned off pieces every so often, and he's got
classics,
he's got nice stuff.
It's probably tens of millions of dollars of watches.
Yeah. He's got, I'm thinking it's going to be, but he's also very sort of savvy as to the trends. Like he's, like Hublot was like the big over the top watch, and that was perfect for the time. And Blancpain was just on that cusp of, watches becoming cool again. I think he's sort of going to do kind of like what, what's his name? William Messina does. Like, maybe smart collaborations with heritage people, like maybe independent makers, but he might get like, I don't know, Kari Voutilainen to design a watch for him and sort of modern heritage independent vibes.
See, I half agree with you. I think he's going to do something for the masses.
Oh, you reckon it's going to be a cheapie?
Well, I think it's going to be accessible. I think it's going to be 3 to 5 price point.
I don't think that anything I just said disagree. Like Kari Voutilainen at scale could design a.
That's why I half agree with you, because I can see that him bringing Kari to the masses through that. Do you know what I mean? Like through really smart business decisions, because he's known for his business acumen, famously.
Yeah.
I don't know what hand he's had in watch design, but I know for a fact he's a very, shrewd businessman.
And he's a marketing guy, like as well.
And he's a marketing guy, so there'll be a lot of collaboration. And I don't see him doing something ultra high end, which makes me think it's going to be accessible.
Yep.
Like I don't see him bothering with an $80,000, independent watch.
Yeah. No, certainly not at scale. Like I think he's a scale guy as well.
I think he's he knows and he's been selling watches for decades. He knows what's possible. He knows the potential. He's probably thinking, well, take X% of this and do it with this amount of watches at this price point. Like he'd have it all figured out.
Yeah. Do you think it'll work?
I don't know. It's just so crowded in watches at the moment. And you need the things that are getting cut through these days, in my opinion, are the genuine craftsmen and, the artisanal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's genuinely kind of cool and quirky and deserves to get cut through. Like you're not getting free passes anymore.
Can you imagine though, like Ming, produced by Jean-Claude Biver, like with the quality control, the marketing capability, and that design sense. Like I think that'd kill.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's find out. Let's wait 3 to 5 years.
Only one way to. Well, I'm sure. Yeah. He's announced at least probably going to have something in 12 months' time.
Yeah, it's being released tomorrow.
Hey, that's cool. Well, I had some other stuff to tell you.
What are you up to?
Reacher on Netflix. Reacher on Amazon.
If only it was on Netflix. If only.
Oh my God. Amazon. I cut ties and then you bring me back. I'm actually a fan of the Reacher books. Jack Reacher books.
Sure.
Not so much the newer stuff.
Okay.
His son, Lee Child's son. But the OG books, they've done a great job bringing a book that was written in 1988 or 87, the first Killing Fields book.
Yep.
And I guess putting it in a modern setting, so phones and technology actually exists now.
Oh yeah, because there was a lot of like payphones and
no technology at all, no cameras.
Yeah.
Mobile phones. Yeah, you often kind of go, a mobile phone would have changed all of this.
Yeah.
But they've done a really nice job with that. The casting for Reacher himself makes more sense. Tom Cruise is not the right man for the job.
I think this actor's like literally 4 times the size of Tom Cruise.
He's just enormous. He's just enormous.
His thigh is Tom Cruise.
And one thing I really like is the way that the writers have written in some of the really key lines from the books or
Sure.
from the first book into the script. Like it's there, and you can go, yep, I remember this.
Ooh,
Even though
that was
years
cool.
years
Yeah.
and years past. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
a cool sort of integration,
Yeah.
especially given the technological change over the last 35 years.
Yeah.
So that's something I recommend. And I put up a little story last night and had a lot of people DMing me about it as well who are into it. So do your best not to binge it, but I can see this
How many eps?
series. I don't know. I think I'm like 3 eps in.
Okay. It's all up yet, or is it still dropping?
I have no idea. I imagine the machine will
Okay.
just stop and say,
Okay.
wait till next week. But I imagine this is going to have a lot of legs because there's so many books. There's like 30 or 40 books. So it's going to keep going, hopefully.
Hey, you know how I was telling you the other day that I started watching Survivor again
Yeah.
for the first time in like literally 10, 15 years?
Yeah.
Just smashed the series in a week. It's great.
Oh, you've done it all?
One series, like.
Is this like the current one that's airing?
No. We just sort of dipped in. Like we found out it was on somewhere. It was like, let's watch Survivor. We saw an article about it, and
So you're old Survivor.
not old, like 33. So like 2016, I think it was filmed.
That's pretty old.
But the last season I watched was like season 3, 3 or 4 in like 2003 or whatever it was. And this is it's still it's such a it's incredible TV. But don't get me started on how great Jeff Probst is and if he's on Cameo or not.
He definitely is. So speaking of other shows, documentary, Netflix.
Yeah, what's up?
The Tinder Swindler. Have you seen this? You across this?
No, you sent me something about it, and I was like, I don't understand what this is.
The cusp of memes. So it's this guy who used Tinder to rip off a bunch of very unfortunate women through a period of like 3 or 4 years, and the estimate is about 10 mil. And he basically ran a Ponzi scheme via meeting women on Tinder and sort of used the same cookie cutter approach of a really lavish first date that he paid for. And then immediately after that, his enemies came for him. He needed help. He needed money transferred. And he just conned these women into transferring and taking out loans and stacking credit cards. And, some of them $250,000 all racking up. And basically some of his victims all kind of grouped together and shared their story, and it caught on, and it's been turned into a Netflix documentary. So
I don't like that.
No, it's really bad. It's really quite sad when you kind of see it. But the reason I bring it up is because one of his cons was to offer up one of his watches that he said was worth $100,000. Sending a picture of his watch collection. That was allegedly day dates and rainbow Daytonas and Richard Milles and stuff and APs. I've transferred the money, but if it hasn't come through, here, just take one of my watches. It's worth $100,000. I'll sort it out, but here, take this as a bit of collateral.
Oof.
And of course, they take the watch to the pawn shop and get told it's a fake. So,
no, that's all disappointing. Never source your watches. I mean, Gumtree's bad enough. Tinder's even worse for watches.
Yeah, don't do deals on Tinder. So there's a few things like positives coming out of it. The victims of, I think there's a few GoFundMes and stuff to help kind of get some of his victims back on track.
Yeah.
They basically did the documentary to stop him because I think he only did like 5 months jail time, and he's just still on the run, and he's still out there.
Is he still? Has Tinder banned him?
Tinder's banned him. I think a few other dating apps has banned him. But yeah, it's worth a watch. It's about an hour and a half.
Okay. I have some other. No. I'll tell you that later.
Tell me later.
Yeah, I'll tell you later. But do you know what we do need to talk about now?
What do we need to talk about, Felix?
We got some packages.
Oh yes, we had some very, very
giant packages in the mail.
Very nice packages. What was in this package, Felix?
I don't know about yours, but mine was filled to bursting with straps from Artem.
Oh, so was mine.
Oh,
our good friends at Artem Straps.
What a quickie dink. This episode's sponsor, artemstraps.com. So we've got, so when we first chatted to them, they had their sort of sailcloth straps, and they've rapidly expanded their product offering in the subsequent months. and we've sort of had a look at some of their latest.
Mm,
There's some NATOs we'll talk about in a second. There's some blue sailcloth
yeah,
straps, which are quite nice. So they're the sort of just a new color variation on the existing sailcloth. They start at 85 USD. I don't have any sort of swatches that I think will go with the color at the moment on those blues. So they're
I do.
oh yeah,
Did you
okay.
see Did you see my pairing?
Oh, was that the Tudor?
Yeah, my 9411, my 1979 vintage Tudor sub.
Yep.
It's just about the perfect match to the blue bezel.
How's it looking? How's it feeling? How's it wearing?
Oh, look, it took about 5 minutes, I'll say, to break the strap in,
Yeah,
which is why we like Artem. They just
I do some vigorous back and forth rubbing on my strap.
honestly, I did like kind of like a couple of wiggles just to soften it up, and it put it on, and it's perfect. It's supple, but I'm
Supple
amazed
yet
at
firm.
how. Yeah, well, obviously very high quality, and
Yeah.
I appreciate the quick change spring bars, but
Yep.
it is the perfect match to my Tudor. Like it's bang on.
Yep.
If you have like a Black Bay Blue or something like that, you're gonna love it, or a Pelagos, or the
Anything with that, like
XD.
a navy bezel, or like even like I reckon a Amiga.
Yeah, Mega would be killer. Be killer.
Seamaster vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's yeah, they're 63. They're the classic sizes. There's long and short, and I think they come
Mm,
in blue stitching and like a white stitching. Maybe
yeah, white
more, but
stitching looks good.
that's what we got. So I tried another one that I wasn't expecting to work quite so well for me.
Yep.
I went with I've got the Loopless sailcloth, which is basically a sailcloth that's made for a deployant, so you don't have to deal with any keepers.
Mhm.
Um, and I've got it on my Helios, and it's been a long time since I've regularly worn a watch strap with a deployant.
Yep.
And I'm really into it because this
Loving
one,
it.
because of the construction, for some reason, it's even slimmer than the regular sailcloth. It's like there's a bit of padding up near towards the lugs,
Mm.
but the main body of the strap is uh, even thinner, and I think it's even quicker to sort of supple up than the two piece sailcloths. And it's just, especially on the Halios, which for me is like such just a casual wearer, just it's such a quick grab and go sort of. You pick it up, you click it on, and you're done. You don't have to worry about, you know, getting it wet, getting it beaten up or anything like that, because it's perfect for me for that particular use of watch.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it looks great on the house. And how about these NATOs, Felix? They
yeah,
are
man.
great quality. Like just the weight,
Oh,
the
hang on.
construction.
I should say that Loopless sailcloth, by the way, 133 US. So
Yeah,
not premium pricing, but you do get a nice buckle, I think, with it.
I think it's a premium product. I don't think it's outrageous
Mm,
considering, you know, what OEMs are charging these
yep.
days for a strap,
Yeah.
200 to 1,000. So I don't
Yeah. Yeah.
like honestly,
But
it's
sorry, I interrupted you in your NATO
did.
spiel.
Well, so these NATOs, Felix. Speaking of premium
Mm.
quality and construction, the weight,
Mhm.
the thickness of the NATO, I'm surprised at how soft and smooth they are given the thickness. Like they're not stiff at all, which is what I was sort of expecting.
Yeah.
Given the thickness, but really comfortable. I mean, there's no wearing in. I think they've got 4 variations, obviously with different sizes, etc. At the
Yeah.
moment,
No, I think they're all
I'm
20
really
mil.
excited to see. Yeah, well, I'm excited to see where they go with colors because these are very sort of strategic colors at the moment. Yeah, there's a Bond. There's a really
They've
nice blue, cream, and red
they've got
Commander,
a
which is the same.
regimental Bond vibe.
Yeah, which again looks great on my Tudor because it's the same. It's the same navy, and there's a black one with an orange stripe.
Yep.
But I
And
think when they expand this, and look at obviously it takes time as a business to expand your offering, but I think
mm,
these straps they're just gonna be about my go-to. I don't think,
interesting.
yeah, I'm impressed. I'm really happy. So yeah,
The main thing I like about them is so the thickness, that was like, whoa, that's pretty thick. But what I'm very impressed with is that they've done a really good balance of not being too shiny or too matte.
mm,
Like, I think it's really interesting to see how NATO straps have evolved over time. Like, 5 years ago they were all pretty crap, and the competition and the quality has stepped up massively since then. But I think a lot of these air quote premium NATO offerings, they sort of go too glossy or like too satiny in sort
Mm.
of finish. Whereas, which I understand it because you want to kind of differentiate it, and it's a nice quality thing, and it's a luxury watch. But this one still has a bit of that shine or that sort of gloss to it, but it's still utilitarian.
Yep.
So I think
Agree.
it sits a nice thing of like, this is not like a, I don't know, a NATO strap you put on a Seiko SKX and, take sailing, but
Mm.
it's also,
Yeah, you could.
you could wear it fancy.
Yeah. Yeah, you fancy for your suit, for wear it to a wedding or something. I should say as well, something I really appreciated as I've sort of been playing around with these straps, and I think I've said it before, the spring bars. So we get a bit of a range that comes to us. The quick release are great. Did you notice the chonky heavy duty spring bars that I think come in maybe the deployment ones?
No, I don't think I did.
The
To be
fat boy, I think
honest.
they're 2.5. Anyway, Artem sell their spring bars that go on these straps separately. So if you're going to buy a strap, I recommend getting a couple of extras, reasonably priced. It's easy. They take the fuss out of it.
Mm.
I'm about that because tracking down spring bars that aren't, honestly shit quality is a little bit of pain. You get tempted on eBay to buy it bulk buy, but the spring bars that come with these straps are great. So I'm actually gonna order a bunch more 20 mil ones now that I have all these new straps to put on.
You can never have enough 20 mil spring bars.
On it, like, where do they go? The fairies just take them all, Felix.
The carpet. That's where they go
I
in
don't
my
know.
place.
Well, like, I don't have any 20 mil spring bars at the moment. I'm out, so I'm like taking them out of
Wow. Come
yeah.
round to my place. I've got a box full of just random spring
Tin.
bars. I used to
Anyway,
and,
anyway, artemstraps.com. That's ARTEM straps.com. And thank you for sponsoring today's episode.
yeah.
Now, Felix,
Yes.
we're going to talk to Matt Ebden, professional athlete, tennis player, about watches and sport. Before we call him, I want to know, when do you take your watch off? What's your limit of your, I don't want to watch anymore?
What do you mean? Like,
Activity.
are there certain activities? Like, do I take it off in the shower or like after
It doesn't need to be
24
too
hours?
specific, but like some tennis players famously wear watches, but
Okay.
most put it on after, right? Because wearing some of the brands that sponsor them, it's just not, maybe it's not allowed in the sport, or maybe it doesn't make sense. If your sponsor's Richard Mille, probably makes sense.
Well, this is weird then, because I don't wear, surprisingly, especially now that I'm sort of working from home, I don't wear a
Yeah.
watch that much.
Really?
Like, I don't wear it at my desk. I don't like typing with a watch on. I'll wear it if I go out. I might just wear it around the house for a bit, but I take it off and put it on and I'll swap around the house a fair few times, like, or go off and on.
Interesting.
But having said that, I am at my desk and there's like 7 watches in sight.
Oh.
So, that's
Or wondering why Daddy's not strapped them on his wrist.
Daddy's not strapped.
See, I'm the opposite. I like wearing a watch around the house because I'm at home so much with this whole working from home. If I don't wear one at home, I'm basically never going to wear one. And then what's the point of all of this? What have we created here? All right.
Let's get on to Matt.
Let's give him a call. Born in South Africa, Matthew Ebden is an Australian tennis player who joins us freshly out of the Australian Open, where he achieved a record 24 ranking in the doubles. When he's not playing tennis, it turns out he's quite the watch guy. Welcome to OT, Matt Ebden.
Thank you, guys. Lovely to be on. Yeah, tennis and watches, two of my probably biggest passions in the world. So love to chat about it.
Iconic duo. Well, you've said you're a watch guy. I think Felix and I have both noticed you liking and commenting various media publications that we've worked at over the years. Congrats on the Australian Open as well. Had a great run there. So before we talk about the commonalities between watches and tennis players, I'd like to know what's on your wrist.
Firstly, you're right. Become a bit of a watch nerd this last 10, 11 years, I suppose, due to the nature of global travel and what. And all over Instagram these days, it's the best place for it, in my opinion. And just fun to, take your mind off it outside of tennis and look at watches and watch stories and all that. So what's on my wrist right now is a Bremont broadsword in bronze with the Sotek green dial.
Nice.
It's the bluey green dial, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. So they call it Sotek. You guys probably seen, but it sort of looks different in all lights. It's bluey green.
Yeah, that's such a cool watch. And I got a quick. What do you do with your watch when you're on the court? Do you leave it in your bag? Do you keep it in something sort of like a sock?
Yeah, just in a little watch pouch,
A sock.
So when you buy the watches, they often come with a nice little soft velvety sort of bag or leather pouch or something. And yeah, it's straight it's in the side pocket of my bag. So if you ever see my bag sitting there, you'll know it's there, but don't steal it.
Ball boys, we're looking at you.
Exactly. There's cameras. Actually, that's a funny story. Rafa was in the media heaps. Obviously, his $1.5 million watch that he won the final in, and or 6, 7 years ago, you guys probably know. But talking about watches being stolen, one of his Richard Milles in Paris got stolen at the tennis. So that was a big deal.
Yeah, rough.
Yeah.
Well, you sort of mentioned just before we got into this that you've been into watches for about a decade. How did the passion for watches start?
Yeah, it started. If I really look back, I think when I was a young kid, I think the first memories I have of watches probably through my dad. He used to travel a bit to the US and he used to come back, and I think he brought me back this really cool black sort of Swatch dive watch once when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like this is the coolest thing ever. So I treasured that and just fell in love with that. And then by the time I think I got to 18 years old, and I think my sister bought me a reasonably nice watch for my 18th birthday. And then when I turned 21 as well, I think I got another watch. And then by then I was sort of traveling on the tour and had this sort of interest. Wore this watch, but didn't know too much about the whole industry and everything I do now. And just started to meet people in the watch world through tennis, which was like you say, it's a bit of a match made in heaven. And yeah, just the global nature of our sport, just airplane magazines in general, just online media, just watch sponsors at tournaments, at the Grand Slams. Just the exposure, I think, was so apparent and just sort of not in my face all the time, but I naturally gravitated towards it and found it all around me, and just piqued my interest. And I'm sort of one of those guys. If I sort of get into something, I dive right in. So I'm sort of careful of what I do, dip my toes into. I'm, a bit of maybe an addictive personality. So whatever I sort of get into, I really sort of get into it fully. And it's been the same with the watch industry. And yeah, I like to say, I'm not some athlete or some watch snob, I only like expensive watches. My interest really was literally to learn about the market from $50 watches up to $5 million watches and every little level in between. Basically, that was really the interest for me.
Yeah, that's. I mean, that's it. Like, I mean, it's a genuine passion, and when you sort of a rabbit hole, everyone falls down at some point or another. So, how did you end up with Bremont? What's the story with that's the bronze one? Yeah, you've got that.
Yeah, Bremont. Yeah, so probably need to go back probably 10 years. So I suppose I had a general inquisitive nature about watch industry, and through a tennis journalist friend of mine who's also a watch journalist or tennis commentator. He's a watch journalist, a Portuguese guy, Miguel Sebra. You might know him.
How are you, Miguel? Yep.
Yeah,
Shout out,
exactly.
Miguel.
So I've talked of him and referenced him a fair few times in interviews in the last year or two, and I've sort of spoke of him but never actually named him. And I said to him, "Oh, do you mind if I name you?" He said, "Yeah, of course." Anyway, there he is. But he sort of took me under his wing a little bit, probably a good 10 years ago now. We sort of got to know each other better online and in person at Grand Slams and certain tournaments. Portugal, I played the tournament there a few times, and then we started talking. We started talking about Lange and Son there, and then he just sort of started teaching me and sending me articles and bits and pieces about all different watch brands and his publication that he writes for and works for, and from there it just sort of grew outwards and outwards, and he introduced me to various watch brand owners, some Swiss guys, and met some real cool people over the years. And fast forward now, probably 10 years, 11 years since then. And Bremont sort of, it happened a bit by chance, a bit by, maybe for a reason, I don't know. But I've obviously become aware, probably as you guys have, of Bremont's story, particularly the last 5 years, 10 years. That they're not 100 years old, but they're starting to have some years under them now, and I became aware of their story. And there was sort of a brand for me that was a little bit in the shadows, I would say, and for no particular reason from what I saw out there in the whole watch industry. And someone I'd known about, sort of seen of, but not everyone knew about them. Not everyone knew, I felt, the quality of their watches and the stuff that they were producing, and obviously their story. So, Nick and Giles and their father, and, their family dynamic, what they're trying to do for British watchmaking, all their military projects, all the charity stuff they're involved in. So I was sort of aware of that. And then in the watch industry or worldwide, and even in tennis or sports, some guys knew Bremont or they've heard of it, but they didn't really know it, like a Rolex or a Tag or something. And I sort of was like, they're maybe not quite getting the credit or recognition they deserve. And I sort of wanted to illuminate that a bit. Anyway, long story short, so I was in the US before the US Open training, and came to play tennis with one of a New Yorker, an American guy actually, who's a shareholder in Bremont.
Oh, cool.
Oh, yeah.
A wealthy guy, bought a stake in Bremont. He has a seaplane, and actually on the bottom of his seaplane, he's got the huge Bremont logo. Naturally, right? Natural fit,
course,
obviously, the watch brand, and they're right into the aviation and all that. So, and we were playing tennis. I helped him with his tennis, and we got to know each other quite well. And he sort of said, "Oh, do you have a watch deal?" And I said, "Look, I have a watch affiliation. I don't have a monetary contract, but I have, some guys in Switzerland that helped me with some watches. They were Maurice de Marillac, Daniel Dreyfus, and the Sons. So I had a good relationship with them for many years, and still do. And wore some of their watches. They'd come and watch me at Wimbledon, at French Open, in Geneva, in Basel, Switzerland, and various places. And we sort of had a really good relationship. But I said, look, this is the situation. And he said, "Oh, do you want to switch to Bremont?" And we'd gotten to know each other quite well. And so I said, "Look, how about," I had one extra patch available on my sleeve. So same as motor racing or other sports. Golfers, for example, they companies pay for advertising patches on their sleeves or on their caps or whatever. And I said, "Look, I have this affiliation, but I do have a patch available, and we could maybe do something." So he said, "Okay, cool. Let me," he said, "Oh, yeah, I'd love to. I want to make this happen." He goes, "Let me talk to the guys in England. Let me talk to Giles and the team, and see what they think." He's like, "I'll get back to you, ASAP." So he did, and we did, and that was at US Open. Actually, I was standing in the little players room before you walk out to Arthur Ashe Stadium, actually in US Open in New York, and had the conversation with Giles there. He called me, and we had a nice long chat, and just explained to him, what I'm about and what I see and why. And I sort of said to him too, like, "Look, I'm not just some athlete looking for a watch deal and a bit of money, and take the watches, take the money, and see you later. No, I don't really care." I was like, for me, it's about a lot more than just a bit of money or watches or whatever. And I value relationships and people and getting to know people. It's life's about people for me, and that's what makes the world go around. Not money or not just watches, but I suppose the concept of time is one that sort of really fascinates me, and obviously all of us. But it's the only limited thing in life, and probably the most important thing in the world is time. Of course, with that comes health, but. So yeah, we had a great long chat, and he said, "Look, this sounds really good. We would love to do it and get involved." And yeah, that's how it happened. And yeah, I think later that week I went and visited the Bremont boutique on Madison Avenue in New York, and met the guys in the boutique there.
Yep.
I think it was Jay and there's one other guy. And, tried on all their watches, had a look at all their models, which most of them I was very familiar with already. Some I wasn't, but it's even just in person, and particularly this broadsword bronze model, I was really taken aback. There was probably a couple of other models that I wanted to maybe choose or get from Bremont ahead of this bronze, but seeing it in person and trying it on, just the fit and the finish of the case, the coating of the case was like nothing I'd ever seen on a bronze watch anywhere. It was somewhere between like a rose gold Rolex combined with a bronze, combined with a sort of gold. And, obviously I know it's going to patina, but yeah, it blew me away. I was like, geez, that's just the one I have to get or have to have. So anyway, so that's what's on my wrist now.
Yeah, well, it's a great, the case size is really good to kind of see from Bremont.
Exactly.
I think it's 40
that was
millimeters.
A big one for me. I spoke to the guys about that after doing even more research with their watches, trying them all on, and And I said to them, look, some of them were,
Bit big.
42, but they were slightly big for 42, I felt. Maybe the lugs are slightly long, and I said to them, I was like, look, I'm not a small guy. I'm 6'2". I'm a professional athlete. Sure, I'm lean and whatever, but,
Yep.
and my wrists may be slightly lean, but, I'm not by any means a small guy. And I'm finding, most of them, other than the 40s, maybe the 42 is, a bit too big. Like they got a world timer there. I think it's maybe in 45, and I'd love to have it. It's a beautiful watch, but it was just too big for me.
Well, hopefully that trend continues. Hey, did you spot any cool
Yeah.
watches during the Australian Open?
Definitely. So, obviously Rafa's Richard Mille was a standout. Spoke to Rafa after his semi-final win. Had some friends back here, big Rafa fans, that were helping me with something, and they wanted me to get a video with Rafa. There's actually a picture with Rafa on my Instagram. You'll see it.
Nice.
But so that's obviously, the obvious one. I mean, I could probably go through and tell you most of the guys' watch deals or affiliations or what they're wearing. If we went one by one through the rankings. Off the top of my head, I mean, Roger obviously wasn't there this year, but, quite a few of the younger guys now are wearing Rolex. Alex Zverev, he used to wear Richard Mille, but now he's wearing Rolex. Taylor Fritz, the young American guy, he's also wearing Rolex, I think the new Daytona. Dimitrov also wearing Rolex. Tag Heuer has a couple of the younger guys. Alex de Minaur, our young Alex, our Aussie player, Alex de Minaur. So he's wearing Tag Heuer along with, I think, Denis Shapovalov, young Canadian. So he's in the top 10 as well. Felix Auger-Aliassime, young Canadian guy. Yeah, very good player. I think he's wearing Rolex. So, a lot of those sort of bigger brands.
Yep.
I think outside of that, they've definitely become, Rolex is Rolex, and for good reason. That's fine.
Strong presence at the Open.
Yeah, exactly. Kevin Anderson is a really good friend of mine. As you said, I was born in South Africa. We played juniors together. We're very good friends. So he has a very nice Panerai.
Oh, yeah.
And he's quite into his watches. I think he has an IWC he had before that too, but his most recent was a Panerai.
So basically, watches are just everywhere at the Australian Open.
They kind of really are. You get the. I mean, Danny Medvedev, he's wearing Beauvais.
Okay. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, very cool. So he has a patch deal obviously on his sleeve. You might have seen, but yeah, he's wearing Beauvais, which is pretty cool. Yeah, something a little different. But yeah, they really are everywhere, and I think Rolex is one of the the sponsors on the signage on around the courts and that. So understandable to see. History. Yeah. So
there were a lot of comments on the crowd this year. So I'm curious, what was it? What was it like compared to previous years? You guys obviously squared up against Nick Kyrgios, who took a lot of credit for the crowd. So the second part of this question is, if Nick had a brand deal with a watch, with the watch company, what would it be?
Yep. Okay. A few parts to your question. Firstly, the crowd. So it was an interesting one this year. Obviously, getting on with COVID, but obviously COVID spreading pretty rampantly through Melbourne. But the people are used to it, and it's not such a big deal. But with so many cases, people I found were slightly more hesitant to be out. Even the streets, the restaurants, the sidewalks were much quieter than usual. Even around Crown there we were staying, it was very quiet, the streets. No one was really eating out too much. So that definitely filtered into I felt the crowds in the first week. There was obviously decent crowds, but it was not capacity. I think they actually weren't allowed to have capacity as well. But by middle of the first week or end of first week, it started to pick up, and for good reason. And Nick actually touched on that. And obviously, start with the doubles outdoors, Kia Arena, some of those outdoor arenas. And people started to really start coming in, especially that middle weekend. I think the Saturday we had a match that day as well. And the crowd probably helped us turn a match. We had a big doubles match. And, again, we had seen what Nick and Tanasi were doing with the crowd and getting them involved. And, we were able to channel a bit of that crowd energy ourselves, and the crowd really got behind us and really helped us. And, so they were obviously, instrumental in doing that. I think, Nick obviously, his family gets, 100 of his supporters to come to all his matches and, shout and be rowdy and do his thing. But then that obviously, people attract more people, and then the crowds got pretty big from an early stage, especially in the doubles. And that happened a bit on our side too. For most of our matches, our semi-final was quiet, but our quarterfinal and that was pretty packed out in Kia Arena. And then, obviously into the final, even against those guys, was awesome. We had a packed crowd, 10, 15,000 people, and plenty of crowd support. So that was a special little element that that the tournament probably needed, and then ended up being very successful with. And then on all fronts, being an Aussie tennis player, obviously there was 2 Aussie pairs in the doubles final, first time since 1980, I think it was. Ash Barty obviously was in her final. Dylan Alcott was in his final. Even in the mixed doubles final, we had 2 Aussies. So I think it was one of the most successful Aussie Opens for Australians in a long, long time.
And what about the watch? If Kyrgios had a brand deal,
yes.
What do you reckon?
Ooh.
Yeah, funny. It actually crossed my mind maybe this morning before we were going to chat. I figured it might sort of come up. And actually I'd spoken to Miguel once about Nick, I think, in a watch and something. There's a brand you probably guys would know. I actually don't know how to pronounce it that well, but it's like CVSTOS, Svistos, or
okay.
Is it Russian or Polish or something like that in Europe? So
it's like a Frank Mueller sister brand, I think, maybe.
Sort of, yeah. It's something European, Eastern European, something maybe.
Oh, yeah, I see where I would have gone with. I've kept it a bit sort of more obvious and just gone Hublot. I reckon that's a good fit.
So my story is Svistos, whatever, was not my pick for Nick. It was something that I think the owners might have given him a watch and done a little deal with him somewhere briefly. But Nick's obviously sort of brand and image, as you know, is a bit more, a bit more of a sort of thug basketball, a bit loose, young, trying to, garner that young sort of audience. So he doesn't wear a watch actually. Sort of never seen him with one, and it's probably not really his thing. I don't think it's I was sort of thinking why, and he likes his gaming and whatnot. So I mean,
I've seen his brother actually in an Australian watch group, in Australian Watch Forum. Yeah,
okay, good.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, I'm sure.
So I think his brother's more into watches than he is.
Probably. His brother's quite a bit older than him. But I agree with you with the Hublot. I mean, if a big brand was going to do something with Nick, it'd be someone, Hublot, someone, a guy with tattoos, a guy, a bit grungy, bit whatever, doing his thing, and
big watch,
and
big
bit of
personality,
that rebel sort of, rebel modern sort of vibe. Yeah.
Yeah. One other thing sort of about that we were chatting about the other week on the podcast is that we sort of hadn't really thought about is so Naomi Osaka's got a Tag Heuer deal.
Yes.
And she has a limited edition that I think she was wearing on the court. But in the sort of the advertising, she's sort of promoting a connected watch. And we hadn't really thought that, she can't wear that on court because it's apparently a communication device.
Yeah, that's a good point. Does she actually wear the connected one during her matches? I'm not sure.
So she wore a regular one during her match, but like the billboards and all the promotional stuff is the connected.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So 2 parts. Like, do you think that we'll get to a point where that changes? And are like smartwatches? Do you use them in training or are they useful?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the women's tour, the WTA, they already have a deal with one of those smartwatch or smart device sort of companies. Is it Zoop or not Zoop? One of those.
Whoop, maybe. Yeah.
Whoop. Yeah, that's it. And they're actually got a big sponsor of their whole tour. That's, I think the women have to wear this device on them somewhere, and they're actually just tracking all their data. So for fans, for websites and whatever. So it's not a watch per se, but data analysis, I guess. That's probably naturally going to be the next push or whatever in tennis, as it is probably already in basketball or NFL. You see, this guy's got stats coming out of everywhere. So that's already happening, quite a lot on TV. You probably see, Hawkeye Live, the data with IBM and whoever else. But an actual watch on court, there's always that element of coaching, and that's been a hot, debated topic in tennis too. But and then I was actually having this discussion on Instagram with an American guy, No BS Watchmaker. I don't know if you guys know the guy, but he runs a sort of, his Instagram page. He's a watchmaker in New York, and he's always writing stuff and, tutorials and bits and pieces. And he put a thing up of, the Apple Watch overtaking the Swiss watch in sales and whatever. And I sort of said to him, I said, yeah, I see that, but can you even really compare the two anymore? I mean, one's an iPhone strapped to your wrist and the other one's a mechanical wristwatch, just telling the time. So at what point do you get to the point where an Apple Watch is not really a watch anymore? I don't know.
Yeah, fair. Well, it's interesting to see nonetheless. All right, so your wife partner's currently pregnant. You kind of mentioned at the start that watches have been something that you mark or have marked milestones in your life, 18th, 21st birthday, etc.
Yeah.
A lot of people buy watches with the intention of passing them down to their kids. Is that something that you've considered? You've got plans to do? You've already bought something and stashed it away?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's naturally a great, memento or token of keeping track of time or occasions. Yeah, my wife probably most recently for one of our anniversaries bought me a really nice watch in the last couple of years. But yeah, I think it's something I've thought about now. Yeah, her being pregnant, and we've got a baby boy coming along the way, a son. So
awesome.
Yeah, naturally, I would. I've started to think, oh yeah, geez, one day, he's probably going to have these in 20 years, 50 years somewhere, and they'll probably be maybe worth more or less, or maybe they'll be relics, or nonetheless, they should still be surviving the test of time. Quality wristwatches that can be serviced and good materials and whatnot, as you guys know. So that's cool. And then you obviously start to think of those associations, like Protect Philippe, their slogans, you just look after the watch for the next generation and this and that. And sometimes people find some of those things corny or a bit silly, but it's actually the reality and the truth of it, isn't it? And, special little things like that. And I think all of us, if we think back, oh, geez, I wish when, 50 years ago or 30 years ago or whatever, when our parents had us, I wish my dad had bought himself a Rolex and then gave it to me now, right? I mean, surely you guys have had that thought. I think we'd all think, oh, geez, if only, if only.
Yeah, this is massive vintage Rolex collection.
Yeah, exactly. So, whether that plays out the same way in the next 30 to 50 years, for us and our children and future generations will be interesting to see. I think obviously the Swiss watch industry is at a very interesting point where, like we said, they probably, pivot and really become a niche rather than trying to compete with an Apple Watch per se.
Yeah. Oh, look, I think they're going to be around, so I don't think you can go wrong on getting something nice for any children in your life. I would wholeheartedly recommend it. But I want to ask, sort of wrapping up. I'm aware you got limited time. Speaking of recommendations, what have you been passing the time with? Nothing watch related, maybe even not tennis related, but TV series, any books? You've been, playing any games? What's been
now recently?
Yeah.
What have I been doing? I've been reading watch books. Actually, I've actually got a watch puzzle I got given for my birthday or Christmas.
Oh, nice.
I've been. So it sounds funny, but I sit here with a whole bag of. I didn't know if we were doing this on video or Zoom, but I've got a whole bag of watch straps here. I'm a watch strapaholic, as they probably call us. Love switching up the straps, giving a new look. What else have I been up to? So my bronze watch obviously had a nice patina over this last 6 months, which is cool too. But then sometimes I've played around with a bit of lemon juice and bicarb to bring it back to brand new and a bit shiny again. Nice. I was doing that last week. Little paste and sort of shine it up, and it's already sort of started to patina again a little bit from that. So it's kind of shiny, kind of patinaing. So just fun like that. And, I like to change the straps, give them different looks, take some pictures, put them on Instagram.
We've all been there, haven't we?
Yeah, exactly. So, hundreds or thousands of watch guys around the world, we follow each other. And so they all like seeing pictures of watches, as we do. We all like seeing watches of someone else's or all around. So the more watch content, the better. Yeah. What else? Yeah, TV series. I've been watching some Netflix documentaries. Actually, I watched in Melbourne 14 Peaks. I don't know if you guys have seen. So that's Project Possible. It's actually a Bremont project. Well, they sponsored the project. So NIMS is the Nepalese, mountaineer, mountain climber. What do they call them?
Sherpa.
Sherpa, exactly.
Yeah.
So, he set out to scale the top 14 peaks in the world, which only I think one or various people have ever done. And I think it took the previous guy that had the record, took him 16 years.
Yeah.
And Nim set out and he accomplished this in 7 months, less than 7 months, with a team, with tech. They did use oxygen, I think, on the top of the peaks. But, yeah, you'll see, big Bremont patch, and Bremont's sponsored him and got behind it, as well as others, because he needed, big funds to pull off this amazing thing. And he talks about actually in the beginning of the series, thinking they wanted to do this, but they might not be able to. They don't have the funds. That they had to fly all around. They had to get a team of guys. They had to get Chinese visas for some of the peaks. They had to, all sorts of stuff. And Bremont came on board and helped them as well. So that was something very cool. And being a Bremont person myself, I was, very, very keen to watch that. So
Good
I seem to gravitate a little bit more towards real stories these days. Of course I like Netflix. We're watching Billions last night, actually, so that those sort of things are fun. Actually, some cool watches on the show Billions, if you guys have ever seen the show.
Always good for a watch spot.
Exactly.
Sort of
but yeah, real stories. I love adventure. I was watching one last week called Where the Wild Men Are. So, these guys go and live off the grid in islands by themselves for 15 years. And, they live out in Alaska, one guy up in some island off Queensland by himself up there, some guy in New Zealand. And, this guy goes and follows them for a week. Very cool.
Yeah, nice.
And, what else?
Cool.
All that sort of stuff. Trying to keep busy, have fun.
Wholesome activities. Love it. Well, Matt, thank you so much for taking the time to join Felix and I. It's been an absolute treat.
No, awesome. Thanks, guys. Love being on, and I hope we can do it again.
Andy Green, Matt Ebden, what a guy, what a watch collection, what a tennis player. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah. He is all of those things, yeah.
Definitely, hit him up on the socials to see some, especially if you're into both watches and tennis. He's like, a must follow. Also, thank you to Item Straps. Great to work with you. Love your product. Andy, if someone wants to email us and complain about how we've represented them on the podcast, how do they do that?
otthepodcast@gmail.com, or you can join our Discord, which we have not mentioned until now in this week's episode, but every day someone is joining, and it's just a lovely spot to be. Otherwise, ot.podcast on Instagram, and if you like OT, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your boss, tell your neighbours, scream it from the rooftops, chant it if you're at the tennis or any other sporting events.
Do you know who hasn't joined our Discord yet?
Last week's guest, Nicholas Kenyon.
Come on, Nick.
Glaring omission. He said he would. And,
lies from tiny eyes.
All right, we'll see you guys next time.